So apparently it's cartoon time in World of Tanks console, and today's video is going to cover quite a bit of information regarding the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme that's going to be going on, including some tanks that you can pick up with some new premium tanks. There's actually 4 new premium tanks. There were some things that went on, at least from what I've heard, that was on the store page that may or may not have happened. I don't exactly know, but some of you commented about it, where they were seeing some of these in the game. Now, I don't actually know if that's true, and I'm not going to comment on it, but apparently that was a thing. And of course, there was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Earn Challenge that we've also got, where you can pick up some stuff for free. And then we've got Women's Day as well, that is actually on from tomorrow, which is the 4th of March, lasting until the 11th of March. So these Teenage Mutant Ninja things are going to be in the game for from Tuesday, so tomorrow, until the 25th of March, which is where all of these end, which is, what, 3 weeks? So we've got 3 weeks to be able to pick up all of these. Now, the first one is the Party Wagon, which is essentially a Skoda, which has essentially, you know, the same autoloader, and we'll cover all of these. This is a tier 9 medium vehicle, so kind of like the Skoda T50. This is essentially the T50-51. Still don't know how, but this is about Donatello, so there's one for each of them, I believe. And it's a fast medium tank that becomes even faster when you activate its rapid mode. So think of something like a CS, which goes into its rapid mode, and that the only thing that adds an extra kick to it. Your autoloader is capable of impressive burst damage that in the right hands can cause some serious ruckus, apparently. And we'll cover all of the statistics of this vehicle. We do have it all in there. We also have 3 other vehicles, so you can see here the Party Wagon, we've got the Technodrome, and then we've got the Shread, which is also available. So in terms of the Skoda, the T50-51, it plays up to tier 10. It has 1650 hit points with 1000 horsepower. And what I'll do is I'm actually going to grab up the tech tree version of the same tank. So if we go onto the Tankopedia, we pop in Czechoslovakia and we look for the tier 9. We can compare against the tech tree vehicle. I'm sure it is going to be very, very close in terms of its stats, or at least I would hope so. So if we jump on down, this is, let's have a look if this is the auto-loading version. There are 2 versions. I don't know if it's the AK, and we'll pop in all of the top packages because that's the easiest one to look at. So 3 shots in its autoloader with 2016 DPM. So if we have a look at the DPM of the premium and we go down, damage per minute 2084. So it is essentially pretty much the exact same. The premium is slightly higher. Gets 3 shots in its clip, 1.8 second inch clip, which is the exact same, I believe, between the 2. So yeah, exactly the same. Rate of fire 5.79 rounds a minute, which is where it varies from the tech tree version, because this has 320 damage and the premium has 360. So it deals more damage in its bursty clip. So I believe that's 1080 total damage in its clip compared to the 960 that you'll be dealing with the tech tree vehicle. And of course, in doing that, you get an increased reload of 27.5 seconds compared to the 25 seconds, but it's not really that much. And because it's an autoloader, having an extra 2 seconds in order to do more damage per shot and have the ability to wipe out tanks pretty much from a higher hit points is far more beneficial than, you know, shaving off 2 seconds. If it was an additional 5 seconds, maybe it wouldn't make such a difference, but having higher alpha is always typically better on an autoloader because you can wipe them out if the reload is relatively similar. You can see view range 410. These vehicles are very, very good at being able to spot. And if we go down to the view range of this, which should be up here, 400 meters. So of course the premium has more view range. It also has the rapid mode, so it goes 60 kilometers an hour in standard mode and 70 in its top speed, which if we have a look, you can see it goes 55 kilometers an hour in the standard vehicle. So this tank is not only faster, it gets more DPM, more alpha per shot, with a slightly longer reload, more view range, and of course it also has a similar sort of ammunition as well, with the same 248mm of pen on its standard and 310mm on its premium. So in terms of tech tree versus the premium, from what I can see, the premium is basically just a slightly better version with more mechanics. So you can use the rapid mode, which takes up to 70 kilometers an hour, which is crazy. And I guess that is pretty much it. The premium is just slightly better. Now, power to weight ratio is 23, so it is slightly lower than the tech tree version at 26. But because you've got the rapid mode, that's going to more than make up for the fact that you've got the power to weight ratio slightly less on the premium version. So that is definitely going to be a potential issue. And those HE rounds with this tank are actually quite nice as well, because of the fact you have 50mm of pen, which is enough for some of the lighter tanks that you come up against, but it can deal 470. But remember, in an autoloader, I pretty much never carry HE, because of course maybe in the 27 seconds from when you load that, the enemy tank gets taken out, maybe they run away, maybe you can't see them anymore, or maybe another tank comes in front of you and then you've wasted the 27.5 seconds in order for you to actually get that loaded. And so the HE is often much worse to load in an autoloader than in something where it's a single shot, because of that fact. But maybe it becoming useful to hold maybe 3 rounds just in the off chance that you might need them. This vehicle doesn't actually have the most rounds ever. I think it's 36. I saw somewhere should have max ammo capacity 66, so never mind. And of course the tech tree has 48, so that's always good. More alpha typically would be a bigger shell, but apparently the smaller shells have less ammo capacity in the same size tank. So there you go. The premium looks better than the tech tree vehicle. This one has, what's our depression? 8 degrees, which is the same, and elevation of 20 degrees as well. So you're pretty much looking at a better version of the tech tree tank. Am I surprised? Absolutely not. Should it be like that? Should there be more advantages for playing the tech tree vehicle, actually being better in some departments? Yes, but it seems like the premiums are just going the way in which they are just better than the tech tree tanks in almost all regards, and simply not having any stats where they're really worse. And if they are worse, it's typically just on the reload speed, which when you factor in the DPM, it actually ends up that the tech tree tank is even worse, even though it has a slower reload speed. So yeah, not particularly the greatest in that department. In terms of armor, these things have no armor, so you're not really going to be bouncing anything. It actually has spaced armor on it though, because of course it does. You can see these blocks of what I would say like the gray areas. These are actual armor blocks, so of course the tech tree version doesn't have that. It is simply as you would see it here, just flat. But this of course gets those spaced armor plates. Now we don't know how thick they are, because that maybe actually means that you can bounce rounds off the turret. It's also got spaced armor on the side, which appears like some of this kind of boxing and tubing that's on the side of the tank actually counts as spaced armor, which isn't the case with the standard tech tree version. So yay. Just making matters worse for the argument of premiums better than tech tree. But yeah, that is pretty much this tank, and I'm sure that the cost of this tank wouldn't happen to be ludicrously expensive, would it? Well, I guess we'll have to find out at the end of the article, where they show the prices of these tanks. But either way, jumping into our best friend, which is the Technodrome. This is a tier 10 UK tank destroyer, similar to what you would see like a Manticore that's reskinned. Now, I'm pretty sure all of these tanks were available on the PC version, albeit that this was actually just a skin for the tank, which was the TVP T5051, which you could get this skin for, and so it wasn't like a premium tank in its entirety, if that makes sense. It was an actual just a skin as opposed to an actual tank. The Party Wagon tank destroyer, so essentially this one is what you would see as like a Manticore size level, maybe slightly bigger in game. We don't know the actual dimensions, but you can see this tank is actually quite fast, 65 kilometers an hour top speed with a power to weight ratio of 22.58. And similar to what we did with the Skoda T50, we'll jump on over to the UK Manticore to see what kind of differences there are between it. Of course, it's a tank destroyer as opposed to a light tank, so it won't get what you would see with the typical tank destroyers, or the light tank not having the negatives of on the move. So you are going to get camo negatives for moving in your tank destroyer version of this Technodrome. And of course you can see here we got a top speed of 68. So the Tech Tree version, or the actual light tank, has 3 kilometers an hour top speed more than the Technodrome. And you can see the power to weight ratio of the Manticore much better with that Rolls-Royce B81 engine at 40 horsepower to ton ratio, so much faster in the Manticore. So good to see that this isn't just a light tank with a bigger gun that deals more damage and is better in every way. However, 65 kilometers an hour, very fast. Hull and turret traverse are pretty decent. 8 degrees of gun depression is good. Penetration is very nice, and it actually has 3 different types of ammunition, which we can have a look at. I'm pretty sure there is a little bit here. So Crank and Shaw makes someone like use the Manticore's blueprint to create his own mean machine with a devastating gun. This tank bears the name of the infamous mobile fortress for a good reason. From any of its 3 firing modes are enough to turn whatever it hits into scrap metal fast. Must be fun driving it though, with all that firepower and mobility it has. So it has 3 different fire modes, which is why the penetration is the exact same on all 3 of them. Now, they don't get into exactly what those 3 fire modes are, at least directly in this bit of the article. But I guess if we watch the trailer, we might actually see what they are. So this is the Tread, or the Dread Tread, but it doesn't look like we're actually getting any more info on what those 3 weapon variants of the Technodrome are. But I can assume that there is a single shot, which might be the 500 Alpha, and then like a premium version, which deals more damage, and then you've got 290 Alpha, which I would assume would maybe be a 3-shot autoloader or something like that. In fact, it just has lower reload. So yeah, you've basically just got reload time changes, I would assume, based on what they've given, but you never know. This could change. I don't know exactly, with not enough information on it. So from what we can see, looks like it's going to be a lower reload, so maybe more DPM with the 500 Alpha. But of course, you can load those 14.5 second rounds to deal more damage, and 5.7 seconds to load the slower or lower alpha damage with this tank. So it looks kind of interesting. I like these sorts of mechanics where it makes you try and think about what you're going to actually load rather than just RBRTing everywhere. And I kind of like these sorts of things where it makes you think a little bit more. But in terms of whether everyone's just going to load the higher alpha damage, which is probably the case, most people typically do. DPM of the tank, 2.6 thousand, which is very decent. I mean, it's not crazy amazing. Now, whether that changes dependent on the ammunition type that you're taking, I assume it would, considering that you're dealing 2,500. So yeah, it looks like the smaller alpha actually does less damage per minute, because if we take 5.75, I know maybe it is actually directly correct. Maybe it is just simply 2,600 divided by the reload times by the actual damage that it's dealing. So maybe it is linear between all of these, so they have exactly the same DPM. Speed of the ship rounds is actually very fast, 1,380, so think of it like APCR rounds, so no issues in that department. 410 base meters of view range, which is very good, and of course you're going to be able to spot quite easily. Concealment of this tank, we're not really sure. It really depends on how big this tank actually is in the game. A nice little size comparison would have been good. If it's the size of the Manticore, I can expect this tank to be relatively stealthy as opposed to a big tank. But in terms of the armor, it doesn't look like you really get any, so think of the Manticore's style of armor. I think on PC that this was actually a bigger vehicle than the Manticore from memory, but don't quote me on that, and that might have just been the event game mode that came out with the PC version of World of Tanks when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles featured on there. But either way, it looks like a decent one. Do I think he's going to be crazy OP? Do I think he's going to be amazing? I don't think so. It's kind of like a tank destroyer like we've seen with a lot of the other tanks. So yeah, is it going to be better than the Tyran? I really doubt it, because the Tyran has more DPM, more alpha, and has the ability to use higher pen rounds, which are crazy, and it goes pretty much the same speed. So yeah. This tank, 1,800 hit points, which is not a lot for a tank destroyer really in tier 10 either. Then we got the Footcruiser, so think of this like an ST2, which is exactly what it is. It's a double barrel. This actually missile fires heavy tank for the Cold War mode, so this is a Cold War Era 2 vehicle, because of course if it's in Era 2 it needs a missile, as pretty much all of the premiums have been recently. So Cold War mode, when battling the turtles, the duo even managed to force them to take cover on more than one occasion. If they didn't bicker so much between them, this tank would be unstoppable. So yeah, essentially we've got a heavy vehicle. You can see the armor model directly here, so you can see you've got the typical ST2 armor, which isn't really going to hold up that well in Cold War, not against those high penetration premium rounds, but it should be enough to kind of get you through in terms of bouncing some rounds occasionally due to the angling of the frontal upper plate here, and of course the turret. But at the end of the day, I don't think the armor is going to be crazy. The actual cosmetics of this don't actually affect the armor model, which is good, because you know, it should be consistent throughout the board that any skin or cosmetics areas should not be hitboxes for the armor, like you see with this one right here, whereby some of the cosmetic elements are actually spaced armor in the game, versus the one that has similar sort of style and has these boxes and stuff like that, which are not actual hitboxes in the game. So yeah, that sort of thing should be consistent throughout the board, and I don't think that any cosmetic should affect the armor in terms of how you can see it in the game, because it gets confusing and simply annoying for players to try and work out where the actual weak points are, or what's armor and what's not. Power to weight ratio 20, which is actually pretty decent for a heavy vehicle. 55% silver bonus on this one, which is going to earn you a decent chunk of credits, alongside a 15% Commander XP bonus, a 15% Tank XP bonus. You got 3,200 hit points, which is okay. 56 kilometers an hour top speed, so it's fairly fast. Turret and hull traverse are decent. Gun depression at 8 degrees is good, and elevation at 20 degrees. You've got a left blaster and a right blaster, both of which have the exact same kind of ways in which they work. 401 mil of pen on the standard with 540 alpha, so you can fire them both at the same time or fire them individually, as with all of those double-barreled vehicles. 520 premium pen, which is great, and 540 alpha. And then you've got the premium with 600 pen and 890 damage that you can load up as well. So that is ATGMs though, so you can essentially fire an ATGM with those third round in the tank. The standard is APDS, and your premium is heat, so no HE with this one, so dealing with some of the spaced armor vehicles can be potentially a pain for this tank, but you know, you just got to hope that your pen or you're aiming at the weak points of those tanks. 2,657 DPM is okay, but really will depend on how you're kind of firing those rounds off as to whether or not you're going to deal damage. That consistent damage, if that makes sense, throughout the game, especially with those missiles. Landing a couple of those would be amazing, and whether or not you can fire the ATGMs twice at the exact same time is unknown, I would assume, because it's a double-barreled vehicle that you can fire both missiles at the same time, which will be interesting to see how they kind of work together with the laser, whether they kind of come in at an angle to meet at the central point, or whether they land like a little bit of a distance to the left and right of where your actual tracer is when you're guiding those missiles in. But it'll be interesting to jump into this tank and give it a go. And then the view range 470 meters, which is good. And then we move on to the Shread, which is an Escalation Era 2 Cold War heavy vehicle as well. This one has a rotary cannon on the top of it. So the Shread is a fast vehicle with a hard-hitting main armament that offers a familiar playstyle to whoever command it, capable of impressive damage per minute values, especially when you combine it with its secondary rotary autocannon, because of course we need more autocannons in the already despicable Era 2, which has got worse and worse over time for anyone playing tech tree vehicles. So there you go, more autocannons entering the game. Armor wise, doesn't look particularly great. Big lower plate that's going to be easy to pen, and even the cheeks of this vehicle look like they can be penned in that central location right there. It's kind of got a flatter plate, and then of course angled plates above and below that, so don't hit those or you'll bounce. And then it's got some cupolas on the top which you can pen as well, 3 of them, one on the left, one on the middle, and one on the right. Be aware of the spaced armor that comes above, as with the cosmetics. Yet again, inconsistencies in how the cosmetics actually play a part in the armor model, because if you look at this one, you'll see that it has these plates on the front, or what look like plates, and then you go to the armor model and they're not plates, and then you go to above, which maybe you shoot here and you realize, oh, it's not actually armor. You hit the upper plate, no, it is actually spaced armor. What the hell is the consistency? And so that sort of thing really bugs me with games where the cosmetics are both sometimes completely do not affect the armor or affect a mechanic, and then some of them do affect the mechanic or the size of tanks and stuff like that. So yet again, a word of warning to Wargaming from my part that this sort of stuff needs to be consistent throughout the entire board, where either they do impact so everyone knows that, you know, where you see it visually is where you can hit. If you see a plate sticking out, then it is going to be an area which is armored, or if it isn't actually sticking out, then it isn't a space piece of armor. That sort of thing is really important as to, like, oh, no skins affect the actual armor, but this one definitely does. So yeah, thank you Wargaming for adding to the challenge of figuring out what it is, because even as an experienced player, obviously if you see this come into the game, a lot of skins do not ever affect the actual armor, and so even as an experienced player you still have no clue, and even when you're seeing these in game, unless you memorize this, if you've got a photographic memory, then perfect, but if you haven't, where the hell do you actually decide what is armor and what isn't armor on this? Like, if you've never seen it before, or, you know, you haven't been sitting there on the website going through all of the armor models like I am, like a boring person. But anyway, in terms of the tank, you have 3,200 hit points, 55 kilometers an hour. Power to weight is sucky on this one, so seems like it isn't that fast, amazingly fast vehicle that it supposedly says it is, considering that, yeah, you can go 55, but it's going to take you a while to reach it. You got 8 degrees of gun depression, which seems to be standard with all of the tanks that we've seen today. 406 pen with 700 alpha, 480 pen with 700 alpha, or 150 pen with 890 alpha. So that's the main weapon of this vehicle. APDS as standard, heat as secondary or premium, and then HE as your final round, which is good for fighting some of those higher tier vehicles. 60% silver bonus is nice as well. And then you've got the Shredder, which has 50 pen, 10 damage, and it has 1,000 clip size. So you're going to be able to do 10,000 damage with this this shredder, and damage per minute 17,150, which puts it at around about 35 or 40-ish seconds of just constant firing. So yeah, I mean, okay, people are going to get melted if you're playing a non-heavily armored vehicle, which yeah, that's going to be fun for yet again anyone wanting to play Era 2. So thank you, Wargaming. I will congratulate you for adding to the problem that is Cold War, but I'm sure that these will sell because of it. And then time to play, get ready to turn every battle into a Saturday morning special with these tanks. Just don't forget your food. Cold pizza is good, but a bit chewy. Okay, cool. So that's that. Let's have a look at the bundles and stuff. So obviously there's cosmetics that are coming in as well. So you got camos. I like the fact that they're bringing in camos. I'd like to see more and more of this. I think, you know, it just adds options to the game. You can spend money on these rather than actual tanks. They're cheaper, and maybe you want to customize a specific vehicle. Maybe you are a fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but you don't want to spend a crazy amount to buy them. You've also got the 3D commanders, so you've got Leonardo here, you've got Donatello, Raphael, and Michelangelo in a comic format as well. They also have their own voice lines. I'm not going to play them just in case it's copyrighted or something like that, so I won't do that. But yeah, you've got voice lines for each one of them with their catchphrases. So yeah, you'll see those there. And then jumping on down to the 2D commanders, you've got all of them: Splinter, April O'Neil, Bebop. You've got all of the turtles themselves, the Shredder, Krang, and Rocksteady. And then you've got voice lines for all of those extra ones as well. And then the bundles. So the mega bundle. Okay, how much is it to purchase everything that we've just showcased here? 52,800 gold, or the equivalent of about £130, maybe slightly over that actually, considering, because of course, you know, when it comes to bundle pricing, it wouldn't be like a games company to, you know, where you try and purchase the correct amount of gold for, you know, to buy something, or, you know, they always have these in-game currencies that for some reason never match up quite with how much you have to spend in order to get the full package, which is basically why they create in-game currencies as opposed to just, you know, you can buy it for 49 quid or whatever it is for a specific thing. It's because they know that you're going to buy 2 bundles and then probably buy an additional bundle that might actually be worth more than what they could just sell the tank for directly for the price. It's to get more money off of you. So yeah, be aware of that. But 52,800 gold. Of course, you can buy 2 packs of 24,000, which is the top one. And of course, that will give you 48,000. But then you need 4,800 extra gold. And, you know, you either pay more for the smaller packages and probably end up equating it to just buying 6,000 gold. So you're going to end up buying 6,000 gold and having, you know, some left over that you didn't actually need or want to buy the bundle. But hey ho, capitalism is fantastic. So 52,800 gold is what you're going to have to pay. So buck up your money and buy all of those if you really want to spend over £130, most likely, to buy all of these. Yeah, I am not going to suggest anyone does that, but it's up to you to make your own financial decisions and whether you actually value that. Or you can do the smart thing and just buy individual things that you actually want in a bundle, so that you don't get, you know, bloat that is essentially stuff you're never going to use or want, and therefore increasing the value of the price. And although it's a 50% discount, all of these commanders, especially the 3D ones, are probably valued at like maybe 6,000 gold each. So add all of those together, you might be sitting at 20,000 gold, of which they'll take off of the 50% savings, and maybe you don't actually want those anyway. So, you know, count that into your own kind of way in which that you price things. But you see party bag and base is 16,400, but you do have a discount on these vehicles. You can see 25% discount and a 50% discount. And you've got this for the party wagon, the Footcruiser, and the Technodrome, and then you've also got the Shread. Now, some of these have different discount maximums. So the Tier 9 Czechoslovakian has a 50% discount as the top. The Technodrome has a 25% discount. The Footcruiser has a 25% discount. And the Shread has a 25% discount. So you can get all of those. If you don't want to wait for what this discount is all towards, which we'll cover in a second, is that, yeah, you can buy the Shread for 11,300, the Footcruiser for 11,400, the Technodrome for, of course, a very nice, simple amount of money of 25,400 gold. Notice that it's 1,400 gold more than what you can buy the biggest bundle in, so you're going to have to spend more money to get the same tank that maybe you didn't want the extra gold for. You're seeing my theme here. It's always that one gold. It's always that meme about, you know, where a package is 1,000 gold and to buy a season pass it's 1,001 gold, so you need to buy extra gold just to be able to buy whatever it is, so they get more money off of you for the same thing. So 25,000, it goes down to 19,000. Now, in my opinion, I would never ever recommend spending like £50 on a tank on this game, because the value to the way I kind of value things in the game, and I don't know if it's entirely right, you guys might have a different opinion, but I value it on how many hours am I actually going to get out of playing something in the game. And if I play 100 kind of hours of one tank, which is, I mean, going to be very rare that you ever do that, and it costs 50 quid, then £50 divided by 100 is 50p an hour. Now, that might actually not be that bad of an investment if I spent 100 hours, but most likely I'm going to probably play 50 battles, which may be about 5 hours, so spending 50 quid to get 5 hours of actual gameplay with something is going to be about £10 an hour, which is just not really worth it for me. I can buy a AAA game for literally the exact same price and probably spend 150 hours playing whatever it is. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to waste my time on tanks on this game that cost, you know, 50, 60, 70 pounds or even more depending on what it is. But I thought I'd share that with you. And then you can buy the commanders in bundles, so you can see all of the commanders in a mega bundle are 19,900. So you can see the base cost is 28,500. So if we go back to the mega bundle up here, where you're seeing everything, you essentially are getting 28,000 knocked off of that discount. So in terms of the discount that you're getting on just the tanks, if you just wanted the tanks, remember, and the emblems, you're only really saving 28,000 gold, not the 50,000 or 52,800 that is supposedly saying that you're actually getting. So yeah, that is not entirely correct. And then of course the cosmetics, you can see here all of those vouchers and emblems, 8,800. So if you add the 8,008 or the 28.5 and the 12,600, total is 41 and a bit thousand gold. So if we go back up here, you're actually only saving yourself like 10,000 gold if you just wanted the tanks and you don't care about any of this. You're never going to use any of the emblems or the standard commanders, at which point if you look at the base prices of all of these, you'd just be better off buying the tanks. So that's kind of something to weigh up as well. And maybe you only want 3 of the tanks anyway, so just buy the tanks outright. In my opinion, all games and everything that you buy, it should be immediate. You should not be rolling for anything. And also you should definitely not be buying things in a bundle to get one thing. So luckily they've actually got singular items that you can just go and buy. But yeah, I do not like the way in which you have to buy gold to buy something in the game. You should just be able to buy it with the currency that you have instead. But yeah. Then you've got camo sets and stuff like that. All of these, you know, depends on which ones they are, but they're costing you like 1,000 gold each. So if you want to buy those, go ahead, be my guest. But yeah, all of the commanders are also broken down into singular ones, or you can buy like the actual Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all of them for 12,000 gold. So that's kind of what you're typically expecting with these. So that is kind of the bundles and everything, and the price that you're going to have to pay for all of these bundles, which is very expensive. But then again, it's always like that with licensed content, because I'm sure that they had to pay for said license in order to get the rights to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the game. So factoring in that you know, over the price of a standard tank. If they were just non-skinned versions of the same tank, they're probably more expensive, but either way, let's jump into the earn challenge. So what you can see is kick the shell out of Krang, Bebop, Rocksteady and Shredder to earn radical rewards, including tank discounts and a free party wagon tank. So this is available for 3 weeks, as with all of the rest of them. So you can see here, we also know that fighting bad guys can work up an appetite, so get your fill of rewards for every stage you complete in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Chained Challenge. You don't need a quarter to get started, simply head to the Challenges tab in-game. Your first task will be to choose one of the 4 turtles to fight alongside you against the forces of the Foot Clan. Once you do this, you'll receive that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 2D Standard Commander with the custom voiceover. Choose your ally carefully, you get to select only one. From there, you'll complete challenge stages by earning pizza slices, aka points as we typically see them. The goals you can complete to get your pizza slices are as follows. So you get 1 for each of these, so it's dealing 500 damage, dealing 500 or more damage, or dealing 500 or more damage while using any of the turtle commanders. So if you're using the turtle commanders, you actually get more pizza slices in every game. So you're going to be wanting to get the turtle commander that you've actually received at the very beginning and using that to get more points. So essentially what you can deal or get is essentially 3 slices per game if you win the game, deal 1,500 damage, and you've got one of those commanders. So that's kind of the upper limit. But you have got pizza slice eaten. So new with this challenge is that they are going to take away your pizza slices. Now, I have an issue with this, right? Is that the problem with this is it affects the casual player who plays the game. Now, the reason why they've probably done this, now this is me thinking outside the box, and if I were a company, is that the core audience of the game, the people who are going to be buying tanks and getting those tanks and stuff like that, are probably going to be the casual players, because they jump on, they see a cool looking tank, they're going to buy it. They don't want to, you know, I think the more veteran or more experience you get at the game, the more tanks you own, the less likely you are to buy a premium tank because you've already got other premium tanks. And so the core audience probably doesn't have so many premium tanks, and they're probably more willing to spend money on the game. So if you make the challenges harder, which is essentially what these are going to do, because experienced players are going to have more points, they're probably going to survive more than 2 minutes in a game, they're probably going to deal more than 500 damage, and they're probably going to place above 14th or 15th in the XP earners on your team. So essentially you're going to be doing not any of these really if you're experienced, unless you get unlucky, and sometimes you will, but at the same time it's going to affect the kind of core audience who play the game, making the challenge harder for the people that the challenge is already pretty hard to do in the first place. So not only is this not affecting, you know, the people who do these challenges easily, but affecting the people who are at the bottom in your games, who are probably going to spend like 3 times longer, maybe even more, with the negative points now to complete the same challenge, because they're not as experienced. It's hurting the new players. So, but there is a way to make sure you don't chew through all your pizza slices. Just as you could drop quarters into the arcade machine to get extra lives, so you can prevent pizza slices from being eaten. With the insert coin bundle available in the in-game store. Each purchase of insert coin will cost 2,000 silver and prevent 1 pizza slice from being eaten. Now, yes, okay, they do limit you, but essentially they're costing you silver every game. And so what happens, you either, you know, just take the hit and realize that you're not going to complete the challenge, and so you don't pay any silver and you just buy the bundle, or you pay with it with silver and drain the silver off your account, and you're probably going to want to buy a premium tank to get more silver back so that you can afford to, you know, get your pizza slices. And although it's not a huge amount per one, it is a little bit kind of I guess, not the way in which I would have done it, in my opinion. I don't like that you lose them. I think it should be more so that there are more challenges on here that are more interesting, like setting someone on fire gives you 5 pizza slices. Like, that's cool. Okay, wow, I set someone on fire, I got 5 pizza slices. It accelerates me much faster, and it's a bit random, as opposed to how you can get it. Adding in negatives just feels like a kick in the face, to be honest. And it sucks. Like, no one likes getting negatives when they're playing a game. Like, going into a game and being further set back, that's not kind of additional content. It's nothing interesting, and this is just ludicrous, in my opinion, to add into the game. It's not fun to do it, especially if you can only get 1 pizza slice every 2 games and you're losing 2 pizza slices every game. Like, you're just never going to get the operation done, which might be the reason why they've added this in. I don't know. I'm not wargaming, but, you know, looking at it from that standpoint. Either way, 15 pizza slices gives you enhanced repair kits and enhanced med kits, so premium consumables. 30 gives you 2 times vehicle XP boosters. 100 pizza slices gets you 25% discounts on the Technodrome and the Party Wagon, as well as the inscription vouchers for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Scene 4, which is earn 125, gives you a Viper's War Chest. Scene 5 gives you 3 days of premium and Viper's War Chest for 175 pizza slices. 250 pizza slices gets you a Cowabunga emblem, alongside a 25% discount on the Footcruiser and a 50% discount on the Party Wagon. Scene 7 for 300 pizza slices gets you 5 4 times Commander XP boosters and a Viper's War Chest. 375 pizza slices gets you some camo vouchers, as well as a Viper's War Chest. And scene 9 for 500 pizza slices gets you the tier 9 Party Wagon medium tank for free. So, and a garage slot, as well as a 25% discount on the Shread. Now, me, in my infinite wisdom, as you know, I'm obviously very intelligent. That's sarcasm for you Americans. Is that 500 pizza slices, if we break it down realistically for the average player, now they might be slightly off, you know, your interpretation of the average player might be different, but I would expect a typical average player who plays a game quite casually, you know, jumps on, it's your 30-year-old plus dads who jump on of an evening for an hour a day. You know, they're not playing, they don't have 8 hours a day to be sitting playing World of Tanks. They have jobs, they have family, they have loads of other things going on in their life. Is that, you know, they may play, say, 6 games an hour, conservatively, right? And they're probably going to play somewhere like mid-table in terms of the game. Are they going to be able to deal 1500 damage consistently? Probably not, depending on the tanks they're playing. If they're playing Cold War, then probably. If they're playing World War II, tiers 5 and 6, probably not. So the higher tier that you're playing on this, if you are one of those people, the casual player, if you want to get those discounts, I would highly recommend playing the highest tier vehicle you have, or Cold War. It's going to give you the biggest chance of consistently getting those points. And of course, make sure that you do put in your Turtle Commander as well for the additional point. So just put it in whatever vehicle you're playing. And then dealing 500 or more damage in a winning battle. You're probably going to get that for an average player once every second game, or like 48% of the time. I think 48% win rate is the average for typical players on the game. Something like that. I don't know the specifics for a console version of the game, but on PC, I think it's 48%. I know, doesn't really make sense. You'd have thought it's 50%. It isn't. It's lower than 50% is the average for players on the game. But yeah. So essentially, you've got 1 pizza slice, I would say, every game is what we're typically going to see. And if you put a commander in, 2 pizza slices a game. But conservatively, I'd say 1. But then we take into account survive less than 2 minutes. So people are going to go in, they're going to lose points. How often are they going to lose points? It really depends. I think the average player probably going to lose a point a game, potentially. So you may earn 2 points. You're going to lose 1 point, maybe, if you're the average player. And so maybe it equates to like 1.5 points a game. Right. Okay, cool. So maybe I get 1.5 points a game. That might be on the higher end, might be on the lower end. I don't know. Don't know the exact averages. I don't have the data on that to kind of make a informed decision. But I would say with my experience of people that I know who've played the game more casually, probably a point to 1.5 points a game. So if we take 500 points to get the maximum bonuses, you're going to have to play about 350 games, probably on the lower side for an average player, or about 500 games on the higher side for the average player. Now, typically, a player will play about 6 games in an hour. So combine, 500 games divided by 6 is about 90. So you're going to have to play like 90 hours to get a free vehicle on the game. Weigh up the price of the tank, which might be like, I don't know, it's like 14,000 gold or something like that, which is about £40. Is it worth your 90 hours? Are you going to want to spend 90 hours of your life grinding it out? I certainly would not be spending 90 hours playing this game to get a tier 9 medium tank. It's just not going to happen. I have far more important things to be doing than slaving away to try and get it done. Is it to say that anyone that does it shouldn't be doing that? Absolutely not. Spend your time however you want to do it. Maybe you have more free time. Me personally, I work full time. I make videos. Do I have the time as alongside actually socializing and having a life to spend 90 hours just to complete an operation in 3 weeks, remember? So 30 hours a week essentially. So you would have to spend over a day, I would say, in that week to be able to complete this operation. So 1/7 of your time has to be spent playing this game in order to get it done. That's like 3 hours a day. Is anyone realistically going to do that as a 30-year-old plus dad? Probably not. Are you going to be able to get maybe the 25% discount on the Party Wagon and the Technodrome? Probably, if you play this game somewhat consistently. So, yeah, these operations are for the elite level players or just simply players who have a lot more time on their hands. So, yeah, especially with the negatives that they have with these points, it makes it even harder for standard casual players to get them done. So, as I say, I hate this. I don't think it should be like this. If I wanted extra challenges, they should be extra challenges. Cool ones, like set someone on fire, ram someone to oblivion and sending them back to the garage by ramming them. Will give you 10 points or like 15 points or something like that. Yeah. That is my opinion on that. So no, I do not think that this is a good task system during this event, only because it was made worse by adding in negative points, which I don't think is very fair on the majority of casual players, expecting them to play over 90 or, you know, very rough back of the hand calculation, like 90 hours in order to complete. Some people, they just simply may just lose points every game, so they're not going to be able to get it done. Or they're spending a lot of silver to get it done. There you go. That is the operation. So, yeah. What do I think of the whole Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle event? Do I like the actual tanks, what they look like? Not really. I'm not a massive fan of these kind of comic vehicles in the game. I don't know. Not from a standpoint of like I'm against it. They just look tacky in my opinion. I just don't really like them. But I'm sure some of you Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle people will like this potentially. But yeah, in my opinion, they just look a little tacky. I'm not really a fan. But I'm sure some people will like them, and I'm not going to say you shouldn't have what you like because I don't like it. So, you know, have whatever you want. But there you go. Will I be buying any of them? Absolutely not. And will I be grinding away at the earn operation? Absolutely not. So that is kind of my opinion on all of these. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I appreciate it. It is a fairly long video, but I wanted to cover everything in detail for those of you that do want a bit more detail for this. And I hope I'll see you in the next video, and of course during the reviews of all of these tanks coming shortly. And I'll see you there. Goodbye.